There we go. At this point, we want to say, we know you're so excited about a materials management project and probably, quite honestly, have been looking into this and have ongoing challenges and direction. We find most of our big companies have been doing various data cleansing and various types of master data for many years, but not everyone has really had a full project yet. And we want to share with you how can it be executed realistically. What could I do to arm my people to clean thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of records, global basis, multiple languages, and how could we then secure all this work effort to make it easy to find the clean parts, to leverage them in procurement catalogs, in our ERP systems, and how can we do it? And that's the area that I'd like to share today about Verdantis. We've been doing this type of work for major companies for over 12 years. We are the leading provider of what we call automated systems, and what we do is help standardize data and keep it clean for some of the largest companies in the world in over 26 different languages. And we work with some Mideastern companies that one of them is $158 billion strong, has global operations, cleaning over 1.5 million SKUs. So we're used to working with big, large companies that have disparate systems globally, multiple ERPs, enterprise asset systems, to help them bring about this consolidation, the standardization, and help them keep it clean ongoing. If we look at what makes us different in the market is, one, we provide what are called SaaS, software as a service deployed solutions. This is a very important way to deliver software because, one, it provides a web-based access, so anywhere in the world, a simple opportunity for an internet connection could lead you to have access to the software. Two, we provide all the infrastructure and basic help desk ongoing. In one annual fee, it includes all the updates. You could have your ERP and various enterprise asset management IT folks help us with getting the data and sharing integration links, but on an ongoing basis, there's minimal support that they have to provide you. So while they're providing core ERP or bringing master data management into the other business objects, you could be up and running in weeks and months rather than years with our systems deployed very quickly. We call harmonize is the area of bringing legacy data to standards. So we have companies that may have cleaned their database 3, 5 years ago, even 10 years ago, but now have many more operations globally. Maybe there's a new well that opens in part of the country, or a new utilities plant that they've purchased, or multiple locations, or a new plant maintenance system that's being engaged. So they need to consolidate that data and bring it into standards. We call that harmonize. We will use a variety of tools that you see here on the upper right that I'm going to discuss in more detail: AutoClass, AutoSpec, AutoNome, and AutoCrawl. What makes us different is we use repeatable business processes where we teach the software your standards and develop ways to clean in batch, so you don't have to clean item by item by item, but can clean data in batches and work to improve quality on exceptions versus each item. And then we embed this into an ongoing repository called Integrity that's basically an all-in-one system. So not only is it delivered as a software as a service where you have a very low monthly, annual bill, and you don't have to, pay for a lifetime, you also have the ability to grow from an area where you might start the project to a global system and integrate it into multiple ERPs. It's a very open standard system. And it basically builds on all of these different tools that we do in the harmonized project. So we try to do 3 things that help you actually engage in a project. Oh, excuse me a sec. repeatable business processing, and then the second one is collaborative workflow. So both of our tools, both Harmonize and Integrity, have workflows that are built into it. And what they do is help bring the right resources at the right time to the right information through an automated system where you could set this up in order to make the work easier on your organization. So in Harmonize, you could take a batch that's specific for mechanical engineers that's particularly useful to certain domain experts in maybe in Russia that you have that's an expert in that, or the Middle East, or even here in the U.S., and you can make that batch move to that particular person or that supplier or that resource, and they can only work on that data, and they don't have to move spreadsheets all over the place and try to then reconsolidate it. The system takes care of all that for you, and I'll show you what we're talking about. And we've also built in templates for over 3,700 data, MRO standard data from almost every industry, allowing most of our clients to do very little work in actually creating data templates. They could either clone ones that we currently have or tweak them or use them as is as a best practice. So Harmonize, again, is the cleaning of the historic data, and Integrity is the ongoing. And even Harmonize has been made into a self-service tool. So in the oil and gas industry, for instance, and even in utilities, we found that many of them have catalog data cleansing people who are experts in their data, but they want a tool that can help them automate the process. And instead of working on each individual item, they'd like to work in batch. So Harmonize is set up as a self-service tool where if you want us to do a portion of the work, we can, but you could do all the work internally with us just basically helping you get set up. So it's a tool that you could leverage with your own expertise to lower the cost and the time frame and to do it, basically as you have time. Integrity is also a self-service tool. It's ongoing. We help you set it up and configure it, but then it's used by your people and we support you. These tools down here are the earmark of the effort. AutoClass allows you to set up your noun modifiers or your classification. So it enables you in batch mode going through hundreds of thousands of items at a time and say this is a ball bearing, this is an AC motor, and basically you could use a standard modifier dictionary, you could use UNSPSC, United Nations Standard Product and Service Code, you could use PIDEX, you could use eClass, or you can have your own noun modifier. What's unique about ours is we have companies that have different standards in different business units. So they want to bring in truly consolidation. So they could decide on a spend classification, but also have different standards for their operational system. So if one group is on JDE and one is on SAP, you can have different classifications but come together on a standard, and the system could categorize all of that automatically at the same time. Or if you change your standard as later on, you could run and reprocess everything, and it'll change all your standards to the different noun modifier. AutoSpec says, once I know what a part is, for instance, an AC motor, what are the individual attributes that I want to call into that part so I have an accurate short and long description, so I know if a part is a duplicate, or I know if it fits into this particular bill of material, or I know if I could use it to repair in my preventive maintenance. So AutoSpec can automatically go through thousands of items and go into the source data, the data that you provide us, and pull out these unstructured attributes and put them into the correct bucket and structure them. At the same time, AutoNorm normalizes the data so the units of measure are always capitalized, they're always the same, you have the same abbreviations used throughout. So naturally, if you're doing system, maybe you have 20 different item masters or 1,000 different item masters. The system can automatically normalize all the values to the standards you set up in the beginning of your project, while it's automatically pulling the content down and normalizing the values. AutoCrawl is a special tool that we have that allows us to go to the web and, based on a manufacturer name and part number, bring in alternative descriptions. So we can find parts in our content library and digital searchable PDF documents like engineering drawings, or even go to websites of your suppliers and pull data out. So we automate it. And then what Integrity does is it takes these models and provides them to the individual line item. I'm requesting a new part. I can make sure that I don't have that part. If I need to request it, it'll automatically set up the part the same way I did my thousands in Harmonize. It'll do the same thing for the new parts. So just looking at Harmonize, it's a very graphical, easy-to-use presentation. And so what we find is that we can train people who are material people, not necessarily IT people, but material people who understand data, to cleanse thousands of items internally and not pay the higher cost of service providers. In most cases, we're finding that companies want us to do part of the work, and they want to do part of the work. They want to do the work that's specialized to them while they give us the more generic MRO data. And because we have a common environment, we can all work together in a collaborative mode wherever people are located anywhere in the world. And everything will be provided with statistics and graphics and easy information. So this is an example of the workflow tool. It basically allows you to the right, if you look to the right here, it lists all the different processes for data cleansing that could be used, such as classifying the data to the noun modifier, setting up your spec sheets, extracting the data from the descriptions into the spec sheets, extracting manufacturer name and part numbers from the data, and also the quality reviews, duplicate checking, post-processing, and even non-source enrichment. And it allows you to drag and drop the process, and these little individual people represent that you can assign each step to various people who have the expertise. So you could take, if you're cleaning, let's say, 100,000 items, and 5,000 of those parts belong to mechanical engineering, maybe hardware, nuts, bolts. You may have different people who are experts in that particular type of category than someone who may be doing actual devices and parts that go directly into the well or the rig. So you could assign that. You could even assign through the security of the system to suppliers. Maybe you have suppliers who you buy a lot of your parts in a particular category for. You could set up a batch for them to do the quality reviews and to add attributes for their own parts. So it's very point and click and easy setup, and it drives people through the process. So just as an example, it'll go into description of input data that could be very different in the way it's organized, as you probably know from your data today if it hasn't been cleansed. And it could then, in the right, it goes through the auto class systems. It comes out very organized with ball bearing, always spelled the same way and always in the same definition. And then it goes in and says, based on that, I'm going to go into my descriptive information and pull out attributes that I want. So on the right is a spec sheet for a ball bearing, and you can see the attributes are listed 1 through 11 on the page, and it gives the definitions. If they're checked, it means that these are critical attributes, meaning in the short description, these are the items that I want with their abbreviations, because I need to know that in order to compare my most important duplicate check to see if it's a duplicate. And in many ERP systems, you have a limit to, let's say, 40 characters, while in the overall PO or long description, you may have 500, 1,000 characters, or whatever. So what we do is we then go into the source data based on the now modifier and fill in the information. So the system is doing a lot of the groundwork at high speeds, at hundreds of thousands an hour. So when the individual looks at it, he can now see, I'm missing my size, I'm missing the seal shield. He could look at their values and work on the exceptions of the attributes, but he doesn't have to work on the attributes that the source data already provided. And so then, as an example, it goes into the source data, fills in the bucket so it becomes structured data. But let's say we don't have any attributes or we have limited attributes, but we have a manufacturer name and part number. In this particular example, we have an SKF part and we have the manufacturer part number. We could go out using our autocrawl tool and fill in the number in blue here so we could see that at least it's looking like it could be a duplicate, because we have the attributes from the source data compared to the attributes coming from the manufacturer site, and find those parts seem to be duplicate. The system will provide complete data to the people managing the system on what has been classified, what has been attributed, where the holes are, where the work has to be done. So they could set up the quality reviews and only work on the parts that are looking like they need help. So you'll have very easy to use point and click opportunities to edit various aspects and do action items. So it is going to split the values. In this example, it's splitting the values between the unit of measure and the actual measurement. And that way it could be normalized for the short and long descriptions. Once we have accurate short and long descriptions, it allows you to do post-quality checking. Again, you're able to assign just the right resources based on the type of part. And of course, that's a very quick. Once you get that, we have companies that ship their own parts out all over the world and need to provide HDS and ECN quoting for import-export compliance, and by having the data set up with robust descriptions, they can more easily do this work and save thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in compliance fines that they're doing now. When we think of the ongoing data governance, we're now going to take the model for classification, the model for spec sheets, and we're going to load all those spec sheets into a tool called Integrity, and we're going to provide integration points to any of your ERP, MDM type, enterprise asset management systems that you may have. So you can have a central point to go find your parts and a central place to ask for new parts that can then duplicate check and then sync up with all your existing systems. Again, this system is all based on a portal-like approach, web-based, access anywhere in the world, and you can have user interfaces in different languages. So we have a customer who has people in Mexico and people in Portugal, and they have a Spanish UI and a Portuguese UI and a Portuguese dictionary and UI. You may have people in France and Germany and different countries in the Middle East. Whatever, we could create UIs and data dictionaries that help you create an item one time and automatically sync up in the different languages, and we can explain how that is done in a more personal visit. But the idea is that you could do searches to find your parts. There are 7 different search engines, including what we call like a simple search or Google search, where it'll highlight anywhere in your data that that word comes up, even if it's misspelled, like if bearing was spelled B-E-E-R-I-N-G, it has fuzzy logic built into it to allow you to come and find the parts. And then it gives you an opportunity to filter your parts based on various other things. So you can continually narrow your search, and you could use manufacturer name and number, any kind of thing that you believe that you have in order to find the part usually is available in this system. When we look to create a new part, we have a process, and the first thing is the individual looks at the system and says, this is what I'm looking for, a ball bearing that's precision radial, 15 mm ID, 30 mm OD, 56 millimeter wide, and the system learns from the harmonized model and classifies the data with a confidence level, saying this seems 100% like it's a ball bearing. So we accept it, and it brings up the spec sheet for the ball bearing that we did and focused in on the harmonized process. So now it'll automatically extract the data from that descriptive and put it into the right positions and normalize the value. So we have auto class, auto spec, auto norm, all working automatically, and then allowing the individual to fill in. To the right, it allows you to set up what data elements through that little red star a person has to have in order to request an item, so you know you have enough information to at least determine if, get the short description done and to make sure that you're looking for the right part. It'll automatically then, once it knows whether it's a duplicate or not duplicate, it'll allow you either to assign a duplicate that's in another location to your organization, your plant, or it'll allow you to create an item and then allows you to put in through parallel workflow to go to all the people to fill in your basic information, your application, your purchasing information, your plant views, everything, for instance, that an SAP, JD, Maximo might require. And if you notice here, it's created automatically the short and long descriptions, and it would also, if we clicked on a button, would bring up the different languages that it created. So it could be that I've created it in Spanish and my other languages are English and French. So it creates all that for the person, so at the edge of the organization, they don't have to be experts in classification, they don't have to know your spec sheets, they just fill in the blanks and the system moves it through with automatic workflow and approval processes. So what we'd like to do is help you understand how we could create a business case in your organization. Many companies have been looking at this and saying, today, these projects are scrutinized, and we need to be able to know that this is going to bring, to the best of our ability, real hard dollar ROI as well as business value. We have a proof of concept that we provide that allows us to take data from your organization with information on the spend and inventory information and give you some examples of what the business case that Arthur reviewed with you would be for your organization. It also provides the information that partners such as the Tagos Group need to look at your data, and maybe you have 100,000 items, and they could look through it and see that 20,000 are obsolete or immediately duplicates, and that they could bring the data down in size to reduce your cost and time frame in doing the projects. So by looking at your actual data and putting it through the process through a sample, we can extract and interpolate what the actual project would be like and help you develop a budget, help you develop a business case, determine what resources you need, and what the cost of the project would be for you. So what we're going to do now is look at an opportunity for you guys to ask questions and have them answered. So Abhinav, if you've received any questions, maybe you could share them with the group. We will be following up with all our attendees afterwards with a copy of today's presentation. I believe there's a survey that we'd like you to fill out just quickly to let us know whether the information was as valuable as we hope it was, and we'll be back in touch to work with you individually.
Hi, Jay. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Jay, we have received a couple of questions. One question is directed towards Ron. Ron, what is the right mix of outside services and internal domain resources for a material data cleansing project? Ron?
Well, I hate to answer it this way, but it depends, and I think the message is that's where Tagos would like to help the team figure out what their particular mix would need to be, whether that's in preparing their business case or once that they've prepared the business case and are moving into the project management execution phase. At its most fundamental level, it's imperative that there are subject matter experts from the internal organization engaged and involved in the process. At a minimum, a core team of internal resources, and then a lot of the boots on the ground work could potentially be handled by external resources such as a company like the Tagos Group. So for walking down material where necessary, for digging through data, as Jay pointed out, to look for patterns, looking at usage history, look for opportunities to remove data elements from the overarching data set to minimize the amount of data that actually needs to be optimized in the process. So again, I hate to answer it as it depends, but it really depends on the organization, their internal capacity, and what exactly it is they're trying to do.
Thanks. How quickly do most companies realize their return on investments for them to substantiate a project? Is there a way to phase the project and cost across the life cycle of our ERP global rollout? So apparently, this attendee has an ERP global rollout happening, Art?
Sure. Let me answer that two ways. If we're looking at, your return on investment is really as soon as either the asset write-off for duplicate assets is taken, or it can be as quick as a first one or two sourcing or supply chain events. If I'm looking at when is the payback, like when does somebody actually hit that break-even point, we're seeing break-even between 6 and 7 months after go-live, and we're on average seeing a 10 to 12 minimum return on invest at 12 to 18 months. So pretty aggressive. On the phased approach, we do see phased approach working, especially in either a JV or a E&P mode, where we've got a capital-intensive deployments. Truckable, I'll say truckable and towable assets tend to be fairly high value. These are good targets for initial sort of data scrub and alignment, as well as ongoing governance. And you can do that on a field-by-field basis. So answer to the first is pretty quick, and to the second is yes, of course.
Thank you, Art. Over to you, Jay.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We've taken the time that we requested from you, so we'll look forward to following up. Everybody will get a copy of the presentation from today. There may be a survey for you to complete, just quickly giving us an idea if the information was helpful or where you would like to see more information in the next round. And we'll very much appreciate your time today. So thank you very much, and we'll be back in touch.